Hello, I'm your host, Dylan of the Others, here to teach you how to make a wire ring with your bare hands. I won't be needing those, and neither will you. Granted, if you have a lot of wire, you are going to need something to cut it. But if you bend it back and forth enough times, give it about 50 tries, it will break off. Like if you just take something like this, and you go like that, and go the other direction. And just keep repeating doing that for a whole lot of times, and eventually it'll snap off. Now this is just the spiral I made. Of course I use tools when I make my jewelry, but I didn't when I started. And that's why I'm here to teach you how to do the same. So basically, you're gonna need, well, wire. And that's it. Wire, your finger, and a little bit of patience. It doesn't take very long. You're gonna need a lot of wire though, because most likely you're gonna mess up the first time around. Now, like I said for cutting wire, just keep bending back and forth if you have a really long strand. And if you're wondering where to find wire, if you have a local construction site near you and they don't have a scrap dumpster, that means it's legal to pick up anything they leave around that is obvious scrap. Like if you take the whole bundle though, that is highly illegal, and don't do that. I ain't condoning stealing. I'm saying, basically, when I first moved here, it was still a construction site. So, I was bored and got bored, and I just started picking stuff up. So first things first, you're gonna need wire. And if you're like me, I'm too lazy to go find wire cutters right now. So even if you just have a pair of pliers, you don't have to bend it back and forward. You just take it like this. Something that simple, right? You put it in like the back slot over here. For me, I had to put it up to here. Okay, I may need a bit of a different plan. Yeah, I need a different plan for this one. Basically, I'm just gonna stick it through here and just ball. Well, that barely worked. Yeah, screw it. This may take a while, so have patience. Once you see there's starting to be nicks in the wire, try to follow those nicks to split it. This is also why you have to be careful. There you go. No tools. I mean, I tried cutting it with that, but it didn't even make a dent. And there you go. You got your wire, right? This is an awfully small piece for a ring that I like to make, but I'll show you how to make a basic one that's quite easy until the last part. So what you're going to do to start, I'll get nice and close. Hey, how you doing? Is you're going to start like this. You don't really need to even straighten it. You just need to make sure, put it like this on your finger, take it like this with the other hand, and start bending it up and around. Now stop and look at the curve. If it doesn't look round enough to you to fit your finger, you just need to straighten it and do it again, or slightly straighten it, and slightly bend it again. Move a little bit to the right, slightly straighten, slightly bend. Bend, 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 all the way around your finger. And, oh no, it's stuck. Whatever shall I do? Don't worry about it. Just make one full loop with a little bit extra like this. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to grab this with your finger and your middle finger and thumb. You're just going to push up while taking your other hand and also pushing. And this will obviously create space. Now all I need to do is with your hands, I'll try to get closer. align this. Just need to align that together. I'm looking at the screen. And now as you can see, this part's a little bit weird. So we're just going to do what I said earlier. Straighten, bend. And now you can see I'm only using the curvy part of my finger, and I'm just following it along. Slowly bending each piece by different points, giving it a wonderful curve that can be adjusted very easily. But it looks like a freaking oval. So Dylan, what do I do? Now this is where I said, you're gonna have to probably need a lot of wire. So go to a construction site that's really messy. All of them are. They don't really care unless they have a scrap container. Don't take anything, because that'll be illegal, and I am condoning you going to prison for stealing things. So, by all means, check the dumpster to see if it's like a scrap dumpster or not. And if you want to go dumpster diving, you can. I don't. I mean, one time there was just a box of wire hanging out of the dumpster, so I grabbed it. But a lot of times there's a lot of random crap in there. People say don't go in there, there's nails. But I've done it before, and it's really not that bad. Doesn't matter what they put in there. I mean, if you're looking for wire specifically, you're not gonna hop into a dumpster really, unless you see like a whole box of it at the bottom, because then that's like at least a few dollars worth of freaking wire just sitting there. You can't sell it for that much money, but it's worth that much money. Scrap yards really under. Basically, you're basically selling them your wire for dirt cheap amounts of money. Keep it for yourself and do stuff with it. So as you can see, it's a little bit ovalish. I mean, you can try to squeeze it down, and this will, your fingers will get tougher over time. So if they hurt doing this, it's okay. But all in all, doesn't look too bad, right? And the other thing you can do to try to reduce how ovally it looks is like earlier. I mean, you could just unwind it. And so you hit the part that made it look like an oval. Round it a bit. Make sure it still fits. As you can see, it still looks ovalish. But that's okay. Because it's just because this turn is a bit too sharp in that one spot. So it needs to loosen up there. And it needs to be equally rounded. As you can see, I'm taking it very, very slowly, one step at a time. And this is, let me remind you, this is without pliers, without claw grips, without wire cutters, without nothing. You can still do this. It's still an oval. I'm just gonna pull it apart and bend this side a bit. Give it a more defined curve. And the key point in doing this is you need to hold it by where the curve is. Like, see how it's straight right here? You need to hold it by right below that and just push down a bit. And already that's looking a lot better than earlier. And it fits kind of loosely, but it will get tighter. So you want it to be a little bit loose. Push it down a bit until it's nice and round like this. I know it has this peak and it has its minimums, but remember that over time, it'll shape to your finger because copper is really malleable. Over time, it shapes to things. So basically, you just want to do what I said earlier. Hold it like this. I'm going to adjust the camera. You're going to hold it by where the 2 points meet on a round part of your finger where the bone is. Right here on the fingers where you always bend things at. because it's the most rounded area full of tissue and muscle. Not really sure what's under there, so don't quote me on that. But either way, it works for bending very smoothly. So you just keep bending, adjusting your point, bend, adjust your point, and if you ever get to weird crooked things that are sideways, you can try to straighten them, or you can just ignore them. It just depends how badly crooked it is. If it's like barely noticeable, don't worry about it. Just like I said, do this, bend, do this, bend. If you notice it getting off aligned, backtrack a little bit and bend it another time. And there you go. See, it's slowly coming together. 2 separate layers. And depending how straight it is, depends how close together it is. Also, you can just try compressing it. Basically, what you're doing right now is you're making a coil. But a coil you can design at the end. We'll get there. It's a long video. Live stream. It's easier to live stream this kind of thing than record it. One take Dylan. Especially when you're doing something like this. Because all these channels make it look too easy because they have jump cuts. They edit out all the mess ups. This is my first try. And I'm showing you how to correct it before it gets butchered. Rather than being like, it's good enough and moving on to the next step, I'm showing you how to backtrack, make sure it's right, then go to the next step. Because if it's not in a certain condition, when you're completed, it won't be a ring. It'll be a mess. And it's not salvageable when you're done. Because everything's going to be tightly crossed over and turned. It's going to be ruined. So you really need to make sure that you don't have an oval mostly. Because you're going to have a double layered oval. Or you're going to have one bigger layer, one smaller layer. And it's just going to bug you. So just keep doing what I've been saying. And then when you get to about 2 or 3 layers, in this case, I'm going to just, you also kind of want to make it so it looks equidistant. As you can see, that one's shorter, that one's longer. So we're going to bend this a little bit further. But that doesn't help because now they're not perpendicular or, parallel. So we're just going to go to where this one is. Just unbend that a little bit. And just unbend that one a little bit. Nice and straight. Nice and perfect. Now, this is where the hard part comes in. I'll put you on the table for this. Okay. Now, you're going to take it, grab it put the ring in between your thumb and index finger. Grip it as hard as you can and try to prevent it from bending outward. And then you're going to just bend it to the right. As you can see, this is what I mean by bend outward. You don't want this to push that off the other layer. So you have to hold it as tight as you can and bend it as tight as you can. This is why pliers are usually what I would use for this, but I didn't have pliers to begin with. And I'm assuming if you're watching this video, neither do you. Even if you do, this is still how you make a ring, even with pliers, except you just don't have to use your fingers. Except for the whole molding process. Most people use, I forgot what they were called, but I have one. I don't use it much because, I just usually do it by the finger. Most people use a mandrel, I think is what they're called. One of these, or a ring sizer, with a little keychain full of all the ring sizes. You put your finger in, you see where it is on this, and you go from there. Start a little bit bigger, because it'll be smaller at the end, like I said earlier. But I don't know how to use one of these really well. So now that you have something that looks like a little small science fair contraption, all you need to do is do the same thing, except this time, you're going to be making a cross section. You're going to be having this cross the other way. Yeah! Ignore that. As you can see, it did make a little bit of space, but that's okay. If you need it to be looser, you can just push it together. If you don't, it'll just fix itself. Like I said, this is where usually you want to get pliers. But if you don't have that, well, there's a few alternatives. You can use a hard surface. You're gonna need to see the surface for this one. Okay, or fall foam. That's fun. Basically, you get a hard surface, I don't know, grab something like soda can. Even this will work. You take it, and you see how that loop's kind of loose? You just push it against while holding the two ends together as hard as you can. The same thing on the other side too. Now usually this is where you grab these bad boys, because the next part you can't really do by hand. But like I said, you can use concrete to try the best of your ability, or use silverware, use anything that can grip and squeeze together. That's a lever. That's all you need. You just need a device that can do that. You don't need specific pliers. You don't need flat pliers so you don't damage the freaking jewelry. It doesn't matter if you sand it. And you can buy sandpaper. Wet dry sandpaper works amazing. From Walmart. You can buy craft supplies at Walmart. You can buy pliers, a Dremel. You can buy just about anything at Walmart in the hardware section and the crafts and jewelry section. So, yeah, you don't have to buy copper. You can look for it. That's why this looks so polished, because it's construction. But usually this is where you take it. And for one end, I'll demonstrate. Take it like this. Fun little loop. This is so hard to angle. Squeeze a little loop. And press it like that against it to bend it. Or you can just do this. Bend it really hard. Mess up a little bit, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. You're just gonna twist it like a screw. It'll make a huge gap though, so that's why I'm gonna fix this. Because you can sell these things wherever. Craft fair, school. I'm not even using the right pliers. I don't use these. But I can still do it because I'm used to doing it by hand. I'm going to straighten this out for the sake of clarity on the fact that that messed up. See how one loop's small and one loop's big? Come on, focus, camera. One loop's small, one loop's big. That's a problem. You're going to need to try to fix that. So just keep unbending it. Remember what I said earlier though, when you bend copper back and forth like that, tons of times, that's also how you break it without wire cutters. So there's a chance you might just end up tearing the piece off. So that's why, at this point, if the shape of the actual ring's messed up, it's unsalvageable at that point. That wire's pretty much trash, or you can melt it down and do whatever if you have the accessibility to do that, but copper has like a melting point around 3,300 degrees Fahrenheit or so, somewhere around there. Otherwise known as like twice the heat of aluminum, so yeah, not even like a standard foundry melts copper very well. It's quite a hard thing to melt. You need a good furnace for that, like a blast furnace. Not something you can use in your backyard. And I don't even have anything that I can use in my backyard. So I have tons of these kind of things just laying around in a box from when I first started doing this. But I've made about 200 rings, and only about 20 of them ended up like this, so after a week of doing this, you should be pretty good. You can impress all your friends, make your own jewelry business. I don't recommend making an Etsy because they charge you based off of the item you're enlisting. It costs money to enlist something. So if I were to enlist like all 200 of the things I've made, that would cost me like $100. I don't know, they like charge 20 cents or so. So it wouldn't cost me no $100, but it would cost me a bit of money that I don't want. And it would only be there for like a month. That's a waste of my money. Somebody can correct me if you feel like it. So like I said, make the loop tighter. Oh no, but Dylan, when I made the loop tighter, it pushed it out. It's okay, just grab it, squeeze it, and bend it. Grab it, squeeze them together. Grab it. I'm trying to give you better lighting here. Grab it, squeeze them together. So as you can see, that doesn't look very nice, does it? Nah. Straighten any ends that are already bent for the next step. Do that in advance. That always messes me up. Grab them, the two ends, squeeze as hard as you can. And sometimes that's the best you'll get. And then you hold one side, grab the side that's a little finicky, and just kind of squeeze as hard as you can and bend. That props it up a bit, but to fix that, just bend this side upward. Not too hard though. You don't want to mess up the entire ring. So when you do that, it will obviously start jutting out. So that's when you just hold it like a little flat disc. You push down. Hold it like this. Push down. Or you can get that soda can from earlier. Nice hard surface. Just push that as hard as you can. Push against it. And just like that, it's already looking a lot flatter. As you can see, there's still a little jetty crick. You don't need to see how focused the camera is. It's just a wire. But it's still jutting out. That's okay. Just bend it up. Hold it like a disc. Push it down. And it's flat. Hold it like a disc. I know I'm not really. Hold it like a disc. Flip it like a coin, I guess. Hold it like a little flat disc, and then you push it down when it bends up. When this side bends up, hold it from the middle, push down. And the spacing that it creates is kind of just going to be there permanently. There's nothing you can do without tools. And even then, even if you buy tools, you can't fix a ring after it's already made. Just, okay, there is one thing I think you can do. You can squeeze here, squeeze them together, and then you're gonna see this mess of a shape. You're just gonna try pulling it like a string and pushing from the other end, and just try to just make that bend go around rather than having to make a new one. And it'll do that same thing from earlier, where you're gonna have to push it against like a Pepsi can or just any aluminum can, or if you have any device that can grip that's made of iron, known as pliers, you can just squeeze down. But like I said, this messes up the base of the ring pretty bad. And then you're just gonna put it on your finger and just kind of roll it around for a bit. Just shift your weight around it, and that should fix the shape just like that. The spacing will be a little bit off, but what you gonna do? Okay, I don't know. It's jutting outward. Hold it like a disc and push it down. Okay, now you can finish it off. Just keep wrapping it around itself until it's a ring. Me personally, I prefer to use pliers for this because it's painful. But that's up to you.
No, I was clearing my throat.
You can try doing this with your fingers, but it's gonna hurt like hell. It's possible, it's just not a good idea. I still did it. But I did manage to find a pair of these, which is just a very common thing in a garage or shed or that a family has. And my dad, I think, broke something, so yeah. Dun 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 dun. Anyway, yeah, that's how you make a rose ring. With little to no use of tools. Up until the last step. And then you can show off your amazing skills that you now know how to do. Using just a little bit of wire. Like, this isn't a little wire, that's quite a bit. You can make a few things off of that. But either way, you don't always need these. Sometimes you just need one of these. If I'm being real, you could probably, honestly, if it wasn't made of aluminum, it would be a lot easier to push against. But the bottom of the can is really sturdy in the shape it has. Like, you can do that and it'll only have a scuff mark. This is made of iron. And this is made of aluminum. Aluminum usually just flattens when it comes in contact with anything harder than it. Iron's way harder than aluminum. So, keep that in mind. Aluminum works. If you have a concrete slab, if you've seen a sidewalk, that'll work. If you live where I used to live, where everything's pretty much dirt, a rock will work. A rock can work. A piece of gravel can work. The sidewalk can work. A concrete slab, aluminum can, soda can, or, that's the same thing. Geez, wood can even work. If you have scrap wood, I don't recommend using a table, though, because it will scuff the table. Obviously, copper is way harder than wood. Not way harder, but you get my point. It's metal. And, it'll also leave copper in the pores of the wood. So that's interesting, but it happens. Hell, yeah, you can use a freaking school binder for this crap if you wanted to. That's textbook. Just trying not to ruin anything. And, yeah. That's all you need. So this is your host, Dylan of the Others, signing out. Have fun, you jewelry makers.